Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I'm so happy today to introduce my guest, Debbie Solaris. She is a galactic historian and Akashic Records reader who shares firsthand experiences of her interdimensional travel and extraterrestrial contact. From Arcturian starships to ancient galactic timelines, Debbie reveals what she believes humanity has forgotten and why so many are awakening to their star origins now. If you've ever felt connected to the cosmos, this episode may feel like a remembering. Welcome, Debbie.
Well, thank you for having me. I know it took a while, so I appreciate your patience
Of
because
course.
I'm sure we both we're busy people. We have a crazy schedule, so I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've been following you for years now. As I mentioned, I have friends that take your course, which I know that we'll be talking about very soon. But
Yeah.
let's just kind of start, before your contact experiences, you kind of lived a very grounded, conventional life. Yes?
Yeah, it was pretty non-spiritual. I mean, other than I was raised Roman Catholic, which I don't really consider that true spirituality, but
I know. Me too. Me too.
yeah, but I as a young adult, I joined the U.S. Navy, so I was active duty military for 6 years, worked as a hospital corpsman, and a preventive medicine tech, which is kind of like more the environmental aspect of public health, so I did that for a number of years. Even after I left the military, I worked in the public health arena for, I would say probably 3 decades. I mean, I was in that
Wow.
realm for a while. And I uh, I didn't really have much interest in the occult or the paranormal or, any of this metaphysical stuff that, people were into. Just, I was just busy just trying to live my life, pay my bills, just trying to, navigate through life. And sometimes it was hard, sometimes when you don't feel like you have much direction, you just see what's ahead of you, and you're just trying to make things work for that day and get through the day. But I think on some level I didn't want to live like that. It's like there's like this inner stirring or this inner, like, I want something more. I don't want to just exist, just to be working and paying bills and taxes. That's not any fun. Yeah. And So I worked for El Paso County Public Health. So El Paso County is not in Texas. It's actually in Colorado. It's Colorado Springs. That's my hometown, is Colorado Springs. And I worked for that agency for quite a few years. It was pretty toxic. I mean, I didn't realize it at first, but I think as I became awakened, I started realizing, just how toxic, governmental agencies can be. And around this time, I was also starting to date my now husband, who was interested in the paranormal. So in a way, he was kind of my catalyst to this
Okay.
whole. So I give him a lot of credit because I think if I wasn't dating him, or I didn't get together with him, I probably would not have gotten introduced, to this world as much as I did. And it wasn't like he was super deep into, the whole Starseed, extraterrestrial thing. I think he had an interest in UFOs. He was always a truth seeker. He wanted to know, he liked, the stories about alien abductions, and also, the cryptids like Sasquatch or Yeti. He always liked to follow that, as well as other paranormal events that just were unexplained. So that was my introduction. And honestly, when I first found out that he was into this stuff, I thought, what is my boo doing? I mean, what is he reading about? This is so crazy.
What
And
was, yeah, I was gonna, you're dating someone that is just completely opposite of you
oh,
with
absolutely. Yeah.
beliefs. What
Yeah.
was the one thing that you just said, oh, he's crazy?
Oh yeah, I mean, I still sometimes say he's crazy, but I mean, I've been with him 24 years now, but yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
he's one of those really inquiring minds that he will leave no stone unturned. You know, like if he's interested in something, he just goes deep, deep down that rabbit hole. And sometimes he'll get so deep into it, I'm like, what in the heck are you doing? You know, this is, pretty getting pretty freaky, just all the things about the Dark Cabal and, the
Mm.
Illuminati and, all that, stuff too. And I was a skeptic, I was always, raised very conventionally, like you were mentioning earlier. So I was very skeptical about it. So I didn't really have much interest other than maybe a passing interest because he was into it. So I just wanted to see what it was all about. But
Mm.
never in a million years would I have imagined at that time that I would have the experience that I ended up having, which was an extraterrestrial contact
Yes.
experience. Yeah.
So let's go there. Let's go
Okay.
right there.
Yeah.
Where were you? What happened? I want all the details.
Okay. We will get into some details. Not too many though, because we only have an hour, but
Yes, yes.
yeah, we have other questions, but I'm happy to help you to help your listeners navigate through this whole story, which
Yes.
is a crazy story, actually.
Okay.
So, like I said, never was interested, never, I mean, just kind of mildly, would read an article here and there and say, oh, there's got to be a logical explanation for what happened. Like maybe they were having a crazy dream or maybe something was going on, but then I ended up having my own experience and it totally just uprooted my whole life. So what happened was my husband and I, this was around the time we were deciding to commit to each other. We were moving forward with our relationship, and we decided that we were going to move halfway between Colorado Springs and Denver. He lived in Denver, I lived in Colorado Springs. So we rented a place for a while in Castle Rock, which we still live in today. So Castle Rock is kind of that happy medium between the two large cities in the Front Range of Colorado.
Mhm.
And it's a cute small town. It's not so small anymore, but I think there's something special about this place. I think it was ancient, sacred Native American grounds or something. But basically, we were in the process of moving, and I was staying at my mother's for a while because, I had rented my place out sooner than I thought because I still own a little property down there, and uh, just thought, okay, while we're, trying to get into our rental, I'll stay with my mother. And one night I was just kind of worried. I was worried about the planet. I didn't feel like things were going well. This was in 2012. There was a lot of upheaval during that time with the elections here in the United States. And then there was also the talk about the Mayan calendar ending. And it was just a lot of unrest overall. And then I was also going through my own transition. So my mind was in, overthinking mode as usual. And I was just thinking, is things going to happen? Are we headed to disaster? Are things happening the way they should? And I had a lot of questions. So one night I just stayed up. I had a sleepless night. I stayed up saying this prayer to the universe, asking for divine assistance for our planet. And it was a very earnest, I would say very sincere prayer. I sent this prayer out to every divine being I could think of, the angels, Jesus, Mother Mary, God, um, just all the beings, ascended masters. I mean, and I even threw in galactic brothers and sisters. I don't even know where that came from because I didn't believe in extraterrestrials during that time, uh, so I sent this prayer off, went to sleep, and then the next day I forgot all about it. I forgot about it for 2 weeks. Didn't even think about it. Just went along, with my life. And then 2 weeks after I said the prayer, I went to sleep as usual, And when I came back into consciousness, I realized I was in a different reality. I mean, I was literally in a different reality. And, people ask me, well, was it just kind of a weird dream? And I said, no, it wasn't a dream because I've had lucid dreams in the past. And there's always kind of that hazy quality, even with lucid dreams. This was not hazy at all. Everything was crystal clear. The colors were brilliant, the details were sharp, and as I was looking around, I was not in my bedroom. I was in the interior of an extraterrestrial starship, and I knew it was a starship. Uh, it didn't look like starships you see on Star Trek or Star Wars. It was not metallic looking, although it did have that starship quality. It looked like this particular craft was crafted from light and plasma-like material that was a technology I had never seen. It was very fluid, very, I mean, there was a structure to it, but it was also organic at the same time. I don't even know how to describe what I saw because there's no description for it except that it definitely wasn't of Earth. I've never seen anything like that. Even with, you know, uh, engineered items, that our government has done from, maybe extraterrestrial craft that, my husband used to read about, it didn't look like anything like that either. And so I was noticing that the ship was kind of guiding me towards a space, and I got guided to this large room. I guess I could call it a room.
Were you alone?
Yeah, I was alone. Yep.
Okay.
At up to that point, I was alone. When I got into the room, there was five extraterrestrial beings waiting for me in the room. And I could tell right away that they weren't gray aliens. I mean, I've read enough of those articles to know what gray aliens look like, and these did not look like gray aliens. They did look alien, but they didn't look like grays. They had such bright auras that their auras were so bright, I couldn't even see them at first. It was like I could tell they were there, but it was like multiple colors, and that's how high vibrational these beings were. And I think I was just trying to process everything. So I wasn't even really scared. Like people would often ask me, were you scared? And I said, no, because I was just trying to figure out what was going on. I mean,
How,
I was,
how did you perceive yourself? Did you?
I looked like myself. Yeah. I mean, I didn't, when I would look at I mean, it was like my body was the same. I looked like
Mm.
myself. I didn't feel like I was like this nebulous form, or it wasn't like that. It was like I looked like myself on Earth, but I was in this higher dimension, which is really strange. But I think it was more like my consciousness was there, and my consciousness was, I guess, exhibiting this form that I've taken on, here on this planet. So I was trying to think of questions to ask these beings because, I was wondering, do they speak English? Can I communicate with them? And as I was thinking questions to ask them, they were answering me telepathically. So they were tuned into me. And I felt a big relief because I was like, oh, okay, I can communicate with them, and it's real easy. Telepathy is actually really, really easy once you get into that mode of communication. It's just that here on Earth, we are not evolved yet enough, and I think you have to be in love consciousness. So you can't have telepathy with beings that are carrying a lot of hate and anger, and
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So because you don't want to take that on, because that's kind of like a mind meld when you're connecting with beings telepathically. But so these beings were communicating with me, and I was asking them, obviously the obvious questions: where am I? What is this? Who are you? Where are you from? Those types of questions. And they told me they were Arcturians. They were from the star system of Arcturus, which I never heard of, and that they were in this constellation called Bodes. And as they were describing this to me telepathically, they had me inside some sort of holographic sphere, in this room that was illustrating their concepts. So when they were describing their star system, I was seeing this like a star map, and I was seeing where their constellation was located. Sometimes it felt like I was right there. It was technology I have never experienced before. It was like beyond anything you would ever get at, Disneyland or Disney World or, any of those places
Mm.
where you have some crazy experiences, or go on these rides. It was way, way beyond that. It
Hmm.
felt like you were there. I mean, that's how advanced it was. And I just remember being blown away, and I asked him why me, because I'm nobody special. I was just an environmental health specialist working at El Paso County Health Department, and they told me, well, you had forgotten, you're one of us, and you've forgotten your mission, so we're here to remind you. And I said, why now? And they said, well, we heard your prayer, and once we heard it, I guess they liked the prayer. They figured I was ready, like I was ready to be of service. So they answered a lot of my questions about politics, about why there's so much suffering on the planet, why there was religion, why history, the true history of the planet had been erased, why there's certain beings on this or certain powers to be on this planet that want us to keep in control. I mean, all the things that I think I always kind of wondered about, but never really had like a concrete answer. And basically, the main thing that they were trying to convey to me was that everything in this 3D reality or this 3D dimension is an illusion. It's not real. It's like we're kind of like playing this video game, and we've taken on Earth avatars, and we're kind of going. We're not NPCs, it's not like that. It's like we're kind of like the heroes that are here to save the day, to try to break the matrix, if you want to call it that, so that's kind of how they were trying to describe it to me. And I didn't quite understand at the time because I kept telling them, well, everything's so real. I can touch, the furniture in my house, or I can, smell smells or feel,
Right.
it doesn't seem like it would be an illusion. So I didn't quite understand what they meant, but now looking back on it, I understand better now. And then they were showing me like a prototype for future Earth. And it was so beautiful. This was like, I guess, the best case scenario Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so beautiful that I started crying. I was just like, oh my gosh, is this going to happen? Please tell me this is going to happen. Please tell me.
How far into the future?
They didn't say. Wish I kind of got like maybe 500 years from now. That was kind of the overall message I got. They didn't outright tell
Yeah.
me, but this was an Earth unlike any I've seen. I mean, Earth looked like Earth, but there was no cities left. It was all smaller communities, homes that were integrated into the environment, so you can't even tell it's a house until you're there.
Wow.
And people had free energy. There was no need for transportation because people knew how to teleport themselves. So I was happy about that because I hate airlines. I really do. I hate going to the airport. I do a lot of traveling and I still hate it. I mean, I think I'm just now used to it, but I still hate it. It's just like why are they cramming us into these planes like little sardines? I don't
I
get it.
know.
So the whole teleportation idea, that was like, that was great. And then we were all growing our own food, so we all had our own greenhouses. They look kind of octagonal, like a biodome of some sort, so they didn't look quite like greenhouses like we have now, but and people were happy, everybody was happy. Everybody was thriving. There was no poverty. There was no inequality of
Yeah.
classes, I mean, everybody was equal and
Yeah.
money wasn't a thing. It wasn't a worry. And that's why I started crying. And I was asking the Arcturians, is this just for rich people? Because that's how I was conditioned. Like only rich
Mhm.
people get good stuff. And they said, no, they were kind of laughing at me like, oh, silly goose, this is for everybody. It's for everybody. Um, and then they showed me around the ships, kind of to speed the story up. I don't want to spend too much more time on it, but they did show me around the ship. And then they let me loose. I ended up in this central portion of the ship, which was actually huge. The ship was almost city-sized. It was so big.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, there was hundreds of beings on this ship, and not all of them were Arcturians. There were beings of different star species. And there was a light shaft that would look like a rainbow that would transport these beings from one end of the atrium to another. And when I tried to get on the light
Amazing.
shaft, it kept throwing me off until a Pleiadian being who was trying to help me told me that I needed to set an intention before going on the light shaft because otherwise it didn't know where to take me. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
okay, that makes sense. All right. Um, so then when I did think about, hey, I want to go here, I got on there and it was transporting me in the air. And I was like in the air on this light beam. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up and I was back in my bed. And I knew immediately that something extraordinary had happened and that my life was never going to be the same. I It was kind of like this realization that it was like I went from being totally asleep one day to the next day being totally awakened. I mean, totally awakened.
Yeah.
And I had a series of very strange interdimensional experiences after that happened, where all of a sudden I was seeing UFOs all the time. Like I was tuned into that frequency now. So
Yeah.
I was seeing them a lot. I was interdimensionally traveling kind of spontaneously. There was just weird experiences. One day I walked into a Starbucks. This was in downtown Colorado Springs, and I could read everybody's thoughts. Everybody, and it was a busy Starbucks. There was 50 people
Oh
in
my
there,
gosh.
and I was
Wow.
just like, and I think I was shocked by how many people have very negative thoughts on our planet.
Yeah.
It's really sad. It's sad.
Why do you
Um,
think that happened? Do you feel like you were you entered a Starbucks in just a higher frequency in a different dimension? What did I mean, that's
It
really
kind of
interesting.
felt like maybe because that happened soon after my extraterrestrial contact experience. So I think I was still tuned into that higher frequency. And so I
Mm,
had the ability of telepathy, which kind
wow.
of came online, just at that moment when I stepped
Mm,
into the Starbucks. And I I honestly felt it was intrusive because of all the negativity I was hearing. I mean, people are having negative thoughts about their spouses, their kids, their bosses, their
gosh.
coworkers,
Yeah.
but mostly about themselves. And I
Mm,
didn't want to hear that. And so I asked my guides, please turn it off, please turn it off, please turn it off. We're not ready for this yet. I'm not ready for this. And then as I was walking down the street, I was passing people and I was hearing their thoughts. And I was like, oh my gosh, please turn it off. And finally it did turn off. And um, now when I speak in telepathy or try to telepathically communicate, it's usually the animals that respond. It's never people. It's always animals. It's always like cats. Cats love to talk telepathy. Cats
they
are
do.
interdimensional travelers anyway. They're
Gosh,
tuned in. They're tuned in way more than I think people realize. And birds usually,
that's great.
yeah, sometimes an occasional squirrel, but it's gotta be a really kind of smart squirrel to do that. But
Yes.
yeah, but the
So
cats, it's usually
what
the
did
cats.
what did your boyfriend or husband at the time, like were you married at that time? What did
Yeah.
he think about when you came back and had that extraordinary
Oh, of
experience?
course he was the first person I told,
Of course.
of course. He thought he didn't quite believe it at first. It wasn't that he didn't believe I had an experience, but or he didn't think I was making it up, but he thought maybe I just had like a really kind of intense dream. And I kept telling him this is unlike any dream I've ever had. It was so real. It was kind of like you're in this hyper reality that's more real
Nice.
than you and me talking right now. Now he believes me. I mean, because we've been, together a long
Mm-hmm.
time, and he's gone through this journey with me. So, so he knows that, I've had some sort of experience. Uh, I think somehow I always thought he would be the one who would, might have this kind of experience, not me, because he was the believer. I wasn't. So it's kind of interesting how that worked out. But now I kind of feel like I surpassed him, like I've gone, way beyond in this kind of realm than, he has. Although, he is a believer. He supports what I do, and we've been together. We've been on this journey together. He's not as spiritual, I guess, as I am. He likes more the disclosure end of things. Um, but he'll come to me with some of the conferences and some of the events, so he tries to
Sure.
support me. So yeah, so he's come around. But honestly, when I first had that experience, I didn't tell anybody. I think he was it was him, my spiritual teacher. I told her, and two friends of mine who were very awakened, who lived in Longmont, which is north of Denver. I told them, and they believed me. I mean, I was amazed that they believed me. So I didn't really share, and I had a second experience too in 2012. Same ship, same beings.
And
Yeah, so this was like the first time was in May, second time was in December. And that was a little bit more of a personal visit where the Pleiadian that was helping me with the light shaft, he was the one that was communicating with me, and he was telling me about, some of the things that were going on with some family members and
mm,
with my really unusual cat. I had a very unusual cat at the time she was a hairless sphinx, and she was a registered therapy animal. She and I used to we did years of therapy work together. So we were a animal assisted therapy team, and she was registered through the American Humane Association and through Pet Partners. So she was a legitimate therapy animal. We visited children in hospitals, disabled kids at schools. We visited elderly at the Alzheimer wards. We did a lot of work with the military, particularly the Wounded Warrior Project. Um, so we did a lot of work in
amazing.
those 6 years. And so the Pleiadian was telling me that she was really a Pleiadian being. She wasn't a cat. And I said,
Wow.
that makes sense because I had never met a cat like Piglet. Her name was Piglet. And she was a rescue. I mean, she was a hairless cat, really cute, really tiny, cute little cat. But she had a consciousness I've never seen on a cat, where you could take her anywhere, and she kind of interacts with people like a human, like she does. Like most cats are really super skittish, and
Yes, yes, they
yeah, you
can.
can't take them anywhere. I could take her anywhere, and people just loved her. They gravitated towards her. Even people that hated cats loved her. Um, uh, and I could take her in the car. She would sit in the back seat like a human. I mean, it was freaky. Like what the heck is going on with this cat? It's like and when we did therapy work, she and I would telepathically communicate with each other. So she would tell me like, "Oh, I'm ready for the next client, patient," or "I'm ready for the next person," or "I'm tired, let's go home." Or she'll tell me like, "Oh, this person needs extra healing. I'm going to stay with them a little while longer." And so we had that,
Oh,
natural communication, with nonverbal communication with each other. And we did this for 6 years. So we got, certified and registered with the Humane Association and in Denver, and
it's amazing.
Yeah, we did. And we worked with the American Red Cross. So that was another group that we worked really closely with. So I think she was my Pleiadian teacher preparing me for my mission. So she was preparing me to learn how to be of service to others, and to think, outside of just survival mode, which was what I was in for a lot of years. Um, so I did have a lot of extraordinary experiences between the years of 2012 and 2015. I think in 2015 was when I finally shared my story publicly. I was asked to, talk about my extraterrestrial contact experience. I didn't initially didn't want to do it, but I kind of got talked into it, and I decided, okay, I guess I'll do it. And I was surprised at the positive reception I received. There was maybe about 50 people that came to that meeting. It was kind of like when they had the meetups back in,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
the meetups. So this was like a paranormal meetup,
Mhm.
which kind of focused mostly on near-death experiences, but she had a ET contactee panel. And so she wanted me to be part of the panel. And I thought for sure people were going to ridicule me, and I got quite the opposite. It was people just welcomed me with open arms, and they
Mm.
asked me to present at the University of Colorado in Boulder, which is a big deal, so things kind of took off from there. But it was a process, it wasn't like things like, I got my mission just handed to me on a platter. It was kind of like I had to go through this whole journey. So I took a lot of spiritual classes. I was, doing presentations, throughout the Front Range of Colorado. And that's how I got somehow involved with Gaia TV. So,
Yes.
so I never pushed myself on Gaia. I never even imagined, that I would ever be a guest on one of their shows. I was just doing readings for because this was around the time I was starting to do Akashic readings. So I took an Akashic course locally, and I thought, oh wow, I'm pretty good at this. I can make a little extra money. So I was doing it on the side, in addition to my 3D, full-time job. And I was I was really amazed at just how many people wanted to have readings, and how many Gaia employees wanted readings. So I got to know all the Gaia people. And I guess they liked my readings because they started suggesting like, oh, you need to get Debbie on Beyond Belief. She'd be great, and so I when I retired from my 3D job, that was in 2019. Um, I just said, you know what? I'm done having a double life. I felt like I was living a double life. Like I was,
Yeah.
living this life where I was, the dutiful employee,
Mhm.
public servant. Um, and then at night I was the Akashic queen, like doing all the
Right.
readings, So I was I was amazed, like I couldn't sustain that anymore because it was starting to have a negative impact on me physically. Like I came down with breast cancer, so
Oh, wow.
and then I had to go through that whole healing journey, which took 10 months, which was actually pretty quick. But um, fortunately, they caught it early enough to where I still had to have a mastectomy, but all the other healing I did was holistic. I didn't do any of the chemo or radiation or anti-estrogen drugs. I refused to do that. I told my breast cancer doctor, I'll do the mastectomy, but I am not going to do anything else. I'm going to do this my way. And she said, well, you're taking your life in your hands. I said, that's fine. I'll take that risk. And I've been cancer free now for 9 years. So,
Dang.
yeah, so it's
Oh,
definitely, I think it was just a lot of emotional anger, like I had to work through. Cancer is a really, really emotional, it's an
it
emotional illness. It
yeah,
really is.
it is.
Yeah, usually anger or
Anger.
shame. I think
Mhm.
it's, yeah. but getting back to what I was talking about, so in 2020 was when I was first invited to be on the Beyond Belief show on Gaia, and that's when I really blew up after that.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I was still kind of well known, even because people locally knew who I was, and it started. Some of them were attending some of my, just in-person presentations, which there used to be more of that before COVID. And it seems like, at least here in Colorado, we haven't really recovered from, um, we haven't gone, I mean, there's some meetups, I'm sure, or some groups that still meet monthly, but it's not like it used to be,
it's not
It's,
anywhere.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I don't do as many local presentations anymore, not because I don't want to, but because partially because there just isn't any events anymore here, and then partially because I'm doing so much elsewhere,
Right.
so I'm getting pulled in all these different directions. So I've been on Gaia TV now, like I think
Mhm.
14 times. It's like a lot. I mean, it probably helps I'm local, but
Sure, sure.
yeah, but yeah, so that's how I got to this, and I've done thousands and thousands of Akashic readings. I mean, you've been doing near past life regressions for what, like almost over 20 years, so you've probably done thousands of those as well. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's
a
like a
lot.
lot. Yeah, a lot.
It is a lot. But at the same time, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel like a lot. It's wonderful to be of service for that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to ask you, when you started reading the Akashic records, when was it immediately the people that came to you, you were already finding their galactic
Hmm.
lineage? So that's what really set you apart is
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of Akashic record readers, but you would go into the galactic. That's like a whole.
Yeah, that was, I think, what um I think was like my niche, or like, my specialty,
Yeah.
because nobody else was doing that at the time. Now I've trained students, and, I have my graduates are doing, same type of readings I am, maybe their own style, but they're accessing the galactic records as well. But yeah, at that time I was the only one, and people were blown away. And sometimes I wouldn't
Yeah.
even have to do a reading for them. I just pick up something and be like, "Oh yeah, you had multiple Pleiadian lifetimes," or your ancestor was a Celtic warrior. I mean, I would just come up with this stuff, and it was like, and people were just blown away. And
You're just receiving it as downloads.
downloads, yeah,
Wow.
exactly. And I would say that was the one prevalent thing, even after my extraterrestrial contacts, was after that happened, I was getting massive downloads every night of galactic history. All of a sudden, I knew all these star systems. I knew which races were associated with these star systems. I knew all this astrological or astronomical information. I mean, it was just insane. And it was like, for a while, I thought I was going crazy. I thought, okay, where is this information coming from? And I think that's what prompted a lot of my research. Like, I was starting to read every book I can get my hands on, um, about this kind of topic, not necessarily Akashic, but just extraterrestrials, or
Hmm.
galactic history, what little there was back then. I mean, I think there's a lot more available now, but um, uh, and it's just been this whole journey. It wasn't an easy journey. I think when you're trying to break away from the matrix and you're trying to step into your true mission, there's that hesitancy, is, oh, am I doing the right thing? Because you're used to that comfort and that security of being in the matrix. Like, oh, the matrix is going to take care of you. And it's like, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I want to be a sovereign being, so, and I'm seeing a lot of my clients kind of wrestling with the same choice. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you see it as well,
Yeah.
where uh, they don't want to be part of this, this mundane 3D grind that,
Right.
people get themselves into. but then they're afraid of the unknown. Like, if I let go of my job, if I let go of my husband or my partner or whatever it is that's holding them back, is there going to be a safety net for them? And sometimes there really isn't. You just got to take a choice, make a choice to move forward without
Yeah.
really knowing what the outcome is going to be. I know that was the case for me. I, was actually in the retirement system with the county. So I was a few years away from retirement and I didn't want to quit because, I was so close. I was like, I want to have health benefits and dental benefits until I die and, retirement pension and everything I worked for 17 years. What I ended up doing was I took my Akashic earnings and I paid for time so I could retire early. And thank God I did because I retired a year before COVID started.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was like my guides were screaming at me, "You got to get out. You got to get out. You got to quit now. You got to." And I was like, "No, but I got to get my retirement." And then I had the brilliant idea, oh, I could pay for time, So I took all my Akashic earnings and it was a big chunk of money too. Don't get me wrong. They
Yeah.
make you pay for that retirement, but at least it was, like a
Wow.
little nest egg, like
Yeah, yeah.
okay, like it was a little bit of a landing pad for me. But honestly, I didn't need it, I really didn't. My
Yeah.
income increased exponentially doing this work full time. And I have to say, I do very well. I'm not a millionaire, but I do pretty
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean, that's, I think, the issue that people wrestle with. It's that, yeah, yeah. I'm sure you see it too.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I work with so many people that have the corporate jobs but what they really desire is to work with people, help. They want to heal. They want to be a part of this collective awakening,
Hmm.
but they feel so stuck. Sometimes it's really interesting. I'll see a client and they're in that stuck mode. And then 6 months later, they come back and they're like, I left my husband, I quit my job, everything, a complete 360.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always fun when they actually take the advice and do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Or the guidance, whatever guidance come through. But
Yeah. You'll feel
um,
it. You'll
yeah, they
feel
feel
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah, I had this client. I'll tell this short little story. It's a cute little story, but she was one of my OG clients, from back in the day when before I became Gaia famous, I guess. But she was in Ireland, and I was in the States, and I did a couple of readings for her, and then she came back to me a third time, and it was 2 years later. And I remember in the second reading, we were talking about she had this dream of becoming an expat and moving to Portugal. And I kept telling her, because my husband and I, we explored the expat route. We've been doing that for years. I mean,
Okay.
but so I knew a little bit about becoming an expat, and so I told her, if you're feeling the call to move, and because she didn't like Ireland. Ireland's cold. I mean, it's a beautiful country, but it's cold. It's got its own culture. I mean, she didn't feel like she fit in there. So 2 years later, she came back to me for a third reading, and I said, "So are you in Portugal yet?" And she says, "No, I'm still in Ireland." And I said, "Girl, what are you doing?" I said, "You need to move now to Portugal." I said, "No
Wow.
excuses." And so I did all this research for her. I sent her all these links on how to start the expat process. And I kid you not, two
Mhm.
weeks later, she moved to Porto, Portugal. And I mean,
Oh,
it was amazing that she took my advice because she was on the fence for a long time, was so afraid,
yes.
She was this kind of timid soul, very
Hmm.
sweet lady, but kind of timid. But I kid you not, 2 weeks later, she moved to Portugal permanently. And as far as
Love
I know,
that.
she's still there. So
And trusted it. So, oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so sometimes, these readings, whether it be, a theta healing or a hypnotherapy session or an Akashic reading,
Mm.
they can even help with, even, like present life issues that we're dealing with, whether it be, what is my mission? What do I really need to be doing? What are my gifts? What should I do with this relationship? What's my soul contracts with a certain individual or individuals, so those are things, so it could be very practical in addition to esoteric. Right, where sometimes I think people think that, oh, I don't want to just know about my past lives, I want to know what's going to help me now. Well, these types of readings do help you now,
Right.
so I feel like we're on the precipice of great change. And I think, obviously the movement has been here in the United States for a while. I'm guessing you're in the United States as well. I don't know, maybe you're
Yes.
not, but yeah, but I do think this is going to become worldwide.
Mhm.
I'm already getting students that are in Hong Kong, they're in Australia, they're in France, or even some outlandish country that I can't even pronounce, so
Yeah.
um so we're getting clients, all around the world that's being called to this type of work, and it's changing lives, because I'm just one person. I can't do all the readings on the planet. I'm sorry, can't do it. Sorry, people.
You had a wait list when
I,
you
I
were,
have it. I
before
still
you
have
were
a crazy wait list. I
crazy
still.
wait list, but even before you were teaching, it was just, it's like, yeah, I think that's what got you to start teaching. Because it's like,
Yeah, oh no, it was because I just
yeah,
couldn't do it all myself anymore.
right.
It was kind of like, well, and I felt like energetically it was time for people on this planet to take a little bit of self-responsibility. Like, hey, what I do, you can do too. It's not like, I have a special passcode or I have the special key. All of us have access to the Akashic records. It's
Right.
not a big secret. I mean, people have been accessing Akashic records for years,
Right.
so, all of us can do it. And that's what I try to convey to my students, that yes, you can do this. It, might take a little practice because we're all out of practice. It doesn't always come
Of
like
course.
instantaneous, but it is definitely doable. And now I have past students, or that have graduated, and they have started their own Akashic reading practice. And
Mm.
we have a directory of all those students that wanted to be a part of it, and they're doing their thing. So that's my mission now, is to get as many people trained in this as possible. I still do personal readings, but oh my gosh, it's just like I open up my calendar and it gets completely booked within like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
yeah, so um it's like kind of crazy, but
Yes.
yeah, it
Well, they're
is.
very curious. Let me ask you, what advice do you have for the listeners who, they're just, I get so many that are, I'm just learning, I'm just starting out. What advice do you have when they're curious, but they're a little skeptical, like you were? You were
Yeah.
super skeptical, and maybe they had an experience. They don't want to talk to anyone about it. What what would you tell them?
I would tell them to take as many spiritual classes as possible. Whatever is available. I mean, I did that for years. And it wasn't like, oh, I want to be a famous such and such, or I want to be this, hang my shingle. It was just more self-discovery. Like, I need to get into this information and integrate it so that I can accelerate my spiritual path. Uh, and I took any class. It was like, it didn't matter what it was. If it was Native American medicine wheel or harmonic astronomy or crystal healing, it didn't matter what it was. I took it. Reiki, I mean, I took it
Yeah.
all. Yeah. So I would say explore as much as possible. And the other thing I would recommend for people, because I notice a lot of starseeds, they just feel isolated. They feel like I'm all alone. I have no one to talk to. Not even my husband or my wife understands me. My kids definitely don't understand me. I would say get connected with groups. Like try to actively, and I don't care if you're an introvert or an extrovert, just try to get involved with a group that, whether it be online or preferably in person if it's available. Um, and start going to these groups, meeting like-minded people, maybe go to a conference or go to a retreat or a workshop. There's a lot of beautiful retreats in Sedona.
Oh yeah, you'll find your tribe for
You
sure.
definitely find your tribe in
Yeah.
Sedona. And
Yes.
probably Colorado too. I mean, there's a lot of awakened people here, and California. Go to the places where, star seeds congregate, and you will not start feeling not so alone, honestly. One of the, I think, side benefits to taking my courses, the long form courses like the Akashic reading course, is that we have a community group, and people meet each other in this group, and they post things and they share things, and I'm sharing things, and we're all communicating, and people will connect. And I've had some of my students actually travel to meet each other because they really connected with someone.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the Arcturians would want the collective to know today?
Yeah. Well, let me tune in and see what they
Okay.
tell me. What they're telling me right now is um, that we can no longer straddle the 3D and the 5D, kind of like my journey where, I was breaking away from the matrix. I think a lot of people are straddling both dimensions, and we're kind of at that point right now where there's a sense of urgency of we need to start really moving forward. And if you really want to be a part of this, not that anybody ever gets totally left behind, but that we need to really increase um, our 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 vibration and really embody the fifth dimensional way of living. It was kind of like for a few years, this is what the Arcturians have shown me, was that they were giving us a grace period just to kind of work through some of our karmic issues or do some healing or maybe gain more information. But now we're at that critical point. I think 2026 and 2027 are going to be very pivotal years for the ascension. Particularly, I would say more so next year, but even this year we're kind of ramping up to it. And I, we can't live in two worlds anymore. We're
Right.
here to
Right.
create a new Earth. So let's
Mhm.
let's do that together and let's manifest it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I concur.
Yeah, me too. It's like
I,
I will feel
yeah.
like I have I don't know, I guess I kind of feel like if we don't ascend in this lifetime, I will feel like I didn't get my money's worth. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
like, let's get this show on the road. Uh and I do think change is happening, maybe not as quick as some of us would like, but I do think change is definitely happening, maybe more behind the scenes, but there's more and more people awakening. I mean, every year there's more and more people, starting to get tuned into what's really happening on this planet. And so I do believe it's going to happen. But thank you for allowing me to share that.
Of course. Thank you. I'm so happy to do this and have you on the podcast. For those of you that um, have not heard of Debbie, please make sure that you follow her. She's on social media. What is your website? How do they find you?
Great question. I am on debbiesolaris.com, just like you see on the screen, Debbi.
Solaris. I
Yeah,
pronounced
yeah.
it wrong.
Solairs
Yes.
.com. So I do offer some, quick trainings on the training page. I do offer readings, but honestly, you're going to be on a wait list because the readings go quick when I contact people. I mean, yeah, I can't, I don't, my calendar doesn't stay open for very long. On the rare occasion it does open. And I usually get booked out like 6 months to a year in advance usually. Um, but do reach out to us if you want to be on the wait list. And then, more importantly, I'm involved with a lot of in-person events this year. So if you go on the events page on my website, you'll see all the events I'm involved with. I'm not going to name them all because there's quite a few this year. And
Well, I'll see
then,
you next month.
yeah,
This month at Conscious
yeah,
Life.
I'll be at Conscious Life for sure. So if you're planning on attending that, you can definitely. I'll be at the the ET Connections panel. It's not the ET Connections, and then also I'm doing a paid workshop, and then let's see. I am on social media, so you'll find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Not
Beautiful.
quite on TikTok yet. Maybe one day I'll get there, but I'm too old. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
No, you're not. You should be
Yeah.
on. You should be on.
Yeah. Eventually I'll go on TikTok. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Debbie. This
Thank
was so
you for
much
having me.
fun.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to talk. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes I can get really into a story, and I
Oh,
really
I love
appreciate,
stories.
yeah, I really appreciate you holding space.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.